Here we go, round 6 here at the Players' Championship. We are going to watch Reid Duke versus Brian Kibler. Let's learn a little bit about these players.
Reid Duke, United States, 52 pro points last season, playing Jund in Standard, playing Hexproof in Modern.
Brian Kibler, United States, 54 pro points last season, playing Green-Red Aggro in Standard, playing Green-White Aether Vial in Modern.
Hey, I didn't notice that the flags waved in
That's
the
pretty good.
interview. I'm just so into what they have to say, the content of, I'm sorry. Let's go. Let's watch some magic instead of
Not some
listening
flag waving?
Yeah, instead of listening to me and flag waving. So it looks like we have a Farseek on the stack while Brian Kibler is playing a Strangerrootgeist. A little bit of speed 'em up magic from both of these players.
It's like a Casalia ambusher. You can just sort of play Strangerrootgeist whenever your opponent casts a 2-drop and attack with it.
I was thinking more like the worm that you can cast while you're searching your library.
The Pan Glacial Worm.
Yeah. Put them in a pan.
Yeah, pan-seared. Yeah.
All right. So there is 4 mana, and that is a Huntmaster of the Fells. It's going to bring Reid Duke back up to 20 life. It's also going to serve as a way to get in the way of that Strangerrootgeist.
Yeah, I mean, really, whenever the Jund deck casts Farseek, you're just in a very sad place as a human and also as a Magic player. Kibler's got a handful of gasoline, lots of really powerful cards, but at Huntmaster putting a damper in his plans, and he's saying, okay, look, I'll go ahead and trade my Geist for a token, try to clear out your side of the board, and get rid of that Huntmaster without 2-for-1ing myself, which is no small feat.
Exactly. So the Geist comes back because of Undying, so it has a counter on it, so it's a 3-2 now. The Huntmaster of the Fells did fall to that Misery Mortars that we see in the graveyard. A Keswick Wolfhorn comes down for Reid Duke, which we'll probably be talking about later, and Thragtusk hits the battlefield, bringing Reid Duke back up to 23 life.
All right, so a lot of options if you're Kibler here. You can Mizium Mortars, you can Scavenging Ooze, Gore Clan Rampager. You kind of might just want to see what's going on, or you could just cast a Hellrider.
And that's what
So go to 22 right away.
looks like it's going to happen. Oh no, this is it's not a Hellrider. It's going to be it is a Hellrider. What am I doing? End of the day. Whoa.
Look, man, only one round to go, all right? Hold it together, Rashad. We got
I could do it. Hellrider comes down, trigger, deals 1 damage to Reid Duke. We did it. And there is the aftermath of the Thragtusk hitting the graveyard, a 3/3 beast token.
It's really pretty impressive how resilient Kibler's deck is to things like Huntmaster and Thragtusk. Strangerroot's able to get through it. Mizium Mortars takes care of some business. Hellrider is kind of serving as an enchantment. It doesn't always have to get into the red zone itself just to do some extra damage. And Kibler's sitting on a Mizium Mortars that's going to be able to clear the board of these beasts if he's given a couple of turns.
I was trying to think of the red enchantment from Onslaught block that you tap creatures to deal a damage to your opponent. But we're thinking about...
You talking about Chiron Negotiations?
I am talking about that.
Oh, man.
So the beast token gets in. It's going to bring Brian down to 17. And another Thragtusk comes down for Reid Duke. He's back up to 27. So he's not... He's not going to go below 20 life, is what he says. But we'll see what actually happens.
Yeah, I mean, his willingness to be aggressive sort of cements confidence in his board state. Of course, 10 life points on Kibler really helps here, and 8 power on the board. If you're Kibler, you've got a lot of things you can do. You can play Hellkite, which actually deals 6. You can try and use that Mortars, although that's going to really expose you to Olivia Voldaren if a raid can stick that and take away your Overload option. Or you can just play Scavenging Ooze and gain some life and use your mana.
So it looks like Scavenging Ooze is the play. It's a 2/2 right now. It can grow to 5/5 because of the 3 green mana, and there are 3 creatures in both of the players' graveyards.
Now, a thing Kibler could have done is attack with Hellrider and try to bait out the Thragtusk block with a Gore Clan Rampager, but I think what he's trying to do is try and grow that Scavenging Ooze on defense right now and pad his life total a little bit.
So Reid Duke picks up a second Olivia Voldaren.
Wow.
Not really that good in multiples, but he has a Bonfire in his hand and a Farseek. So he has the ability to, advance his mana and then make that Bonfire an actual playable card from his hand.
Yeah, and Olivia, while it's not good in multiples, is very, very good if your opponent kills the first one. Kibler's sitting on a Mizium Mortars, so doesn't really have to worry about that first Olivia, but the second one could take control of the game if Kibler's not able to get aggressive now.
Reid Duke deep in the tank, deciding on whether or not to play Olivia. Maybe he's just deciding which one of the copies to play. I'm not sure if it was the same art or not, but, you know.
Is one of them signed by the artist?
Oh, because you don't.
I think also Kibler's play allows him to not take 3 from the Beast token at this point in time, which is obviously pretty valuable right now.
So there is Olivia. There's a black mana open, but it's not going to mean much. So Scavenging Ooze goes to town, just noms the graveyard. He's up 5/5.
Casually a 5/5.
Yeah, but that's going to bring Kibler back up to 20. So it's like we didn't even play Magic on, you know, from the life total stands.
At this point, he's going to actually be able to get maximum value out of that Thundermaw Hellkite if he casts it, tapping down Olivia, and can get into the red zone for at least 6 with a Hellkite, or potentially even more with Scavenging Ooze, depending on what he's in the mood to do and whether he leaves mana up for Gore Clan Rampage.
Now that Thundermaw Hellkite plan is looking better and better because he just drew a second one. So now that puts a lot of pressure on Reid Duke being able to follow up a Thundermaw Hellkite with a second Thundermaw Hellkite.
That is a lot of the damages in this game. That would be 18 total damage with Hellrider. Yeah, and we see Kibler going ahead and making use of that Mortars, so we have to expect now a big attack with Gore Clan Rampager mana up to protect against shenanigans.
Yes, shenanigans could ensue, but right now, Brian Kibler is going to take this opportunity to use all of his mana because he also has the ability to use the Scavenging Ooze as the green mana to get rid of the Olivia Voldaren or the Gore Clan Rampager that goes to the graveyard from Blood Rush.
Yeah, it's really easy to sort of think about Scavenging Ooze and its utility against like Reanimator or Graveyard-based decks. It's also just kind of like a leveler, though. I mean, it just sits on the table and just gains you tons of life.
So Scavenging Ooze gets double blocked by a Beast token and a Thragtusk. It's going to use this ability to make it a 6/6 prior to this, and it looks like Brian Kibler is content with the 2-for-1, as it were, because there is a token that's going to come back in a little bit of confusion, but they get it together.
Figure it all out eventually. So he's just opting not to use Gore Clan Rampager, interestingly. You have to think that you'd want to keep that Scavenging Ooze on the board. Was there just not enough mana to do that?
Well, he had the mana to activate it. I'm not sure.
I mean, did he have enough toughness, I guess, is my...
Well, it was a 6
power,
okay, so it would have been a 10.
Yeah, wow.
So there is Olivia Part 2.
I guess maybe he didn't know about the Olivia, so his Hellrider is a 3/3. Maybe he wanted it to match up successfully against the Beast token, perhaps.
So it looks like Reid Duke did not take a damage from Hellrider last attack.
Oh yeah, just might have just forgotten to declare the trigger, and that's how the world works nowadays.
Right, so there is Thundermaw Hellkite. He's going to remember the trigger this time, and also Thundermaw Hellkite deals 1 damage to Olivia Voldaren and taps it for that turn. So he's going to get in for the 5 damage unblocked. And now Reid Duke is going to look at the top of his deck, and he already has a Garrick in his hand. It looks like he picks up a Huntmaster that fails to go along with the Bonfire and Farseek he already had for a while.
Now, very relevantly, Reid did not have an extra mana open to use Olivia last turn on Thundermaw, threatening to steal it this turn. So now that second Thundermaw means that Kibler's going to be able to get a lot of damage in before Olivia's starting to be able to turn the board around and start treacherying creatures.
Yeah, I feel like that was a big consideration back when Reid Duke was considering playing Olivia Voldaren or maybe the Farseek, just ensuring that he had the mana to play, after, untap and be able to activate both of Olivia's abilities.
Right. Yeah, and it looks like in choosing to Farseek now, instead of casting Garrick, he's kind of saying, all right, like I need to leave myself mana up because otherwise those Hellkites are just going to do me in.
Right. I mean, he had 3 draw steps to naturally get that land, and I guess he's just tired of waiting.
Yeah. I mean, Garrick would bite the dust, but it would gain you 5 life at least and give you a 3/3, which doesn't really sound like the worst idea. Also, you could just draw a bunch of cards off of it if you like to, but I think definitely turning that dragon into a vampire at your earliest convenience is very important right now.
So he has mana to activate Olivia once, dealing the damage, but
Right.
that doesn't really do much other than put a counter on Olivia Voldaren. It would give it the ability to block effectively the Hell Rider, but when there's yet another Thundermaw Hellkite coming down, what do you do? What do you do when you're Reid Duke?
Yes.
I think you take a lot of damage is one of the first things
You
that
take
do.
12? You just take 12 damage, go down to
Jeez.
9 life? Is that what you do?
It may be what you have to do.
Okay.
And now Arbor Elf actually kind of relevant here, even though with Olivia out, I mean, he really wants to deal damage to that dragon. So that means Arbor Elf can attack next turn, trigger some Hell Riders.
Right. So Olivia's going to deal 1 damage to the Thundermaw Hellkite. It's going to make it a vampire. And he is going to untap, and now he has the ability to, quote-unquote, treachery that dragon at any time. Probably going to wait until it's untapped, though.
Yeah, that's certainly you don't want to do it when it's tapped, and that's not going to really help you out against the other Thundermaw Hellkite. And Kibler's slow-rolled Gore Clan Rampager are proving really valuable right now because that Olivia can't even grow large enough to successfully block Thundermaw Hellkite if that was the angle that Duke was intending to take.
So Reid only has 6 mana. He doesn't have enough mana to do anything other than activate Olivia. So unless he has a 1-drop spell, which I don't believe he does, he's going to have to pass the turn, which he does.
Right, so, and this is where Reid has to make decisions, right? He chose not to kill the Arbor Elf last turn, so it's important to him that one of those dragons is a vampire. On the other hand, if he steals it, he's exposing himself to vulnerability. He also is leaving Hell Rider alive. He could just straight up kill the Hell Rider right now if he wanted to. I would anticipate he's going to steal a dragon,
Right,
but
and-
he has a number of options, right?
And that's exactly what happens. He gains control of target vampire, which that Thundermaw Hellkite was a vampire. Dominic's going to
Wow.
come down. He's going to use the fight
Wow.
ability. That's going to get rid of the Olivia Voldaren. Give the Thundermaw Hellkite back. It has haste, so it can still attack.
Well, I think he didn't end up attacking. I
So
think
this-
he did that before. He declared his attack step
Right.
first so that Reid had to tap his mana for
Right.
the Olivia,
Right,
so he'd be
right.
unable to grow it too large to fight with Thunderball.
Exactly.
So that was a giant top deck from Kibler right there. I
He doesn't look like he just made a giant top deck. He's just like, you know what? Day at the office.
Well, Domri Raid is so good that you're used to crazy things happening when you draw it. But
Okay, it's just what's supposed to happen.
right, you're either having your own personal Phyrexian arena that gives you an emblem at the end of the day, or you're
just killing target creature with your green biggins.
your biggin. Creature-biggin is the official card type.
4 mana, and there is
What?
a third Olivia
What?
Voldaren.
It never stops coming with the hits.
2 mana left open to activate that ability, but there's going to be a lot of damage coming Reid Duke's way.
Shows the Elvish Mystic. Exactly what he wants to draw right now. Well, okay, maybe not. Oh, man.
2
Boring.
mana Flint Hoof Boar gives it haste. That's a 3/3, and Hell Rider is about to trigger and trigger and trigger and trigger and trigger.
Yeah, we are fixing to see some damage be output right here.
Reid Duke has seen enough. Brian Kibler wins game 1 of round 16 versus Reid Duke.
Powering through 3 Olivia Voldarens on the way and 2 Thragtusks.
Impressive.
We got ads coming up.
Brian Kibler, unusually quiet this round.
I think, now that he's leading the pack, he's ready.
We'd like to thank Card House Games for being an official card retailer here at Worlds Week. Enter the code AMS10 when ordering at cardhousegames.com for 10% off your next purchase. For more information, visit cardhouse.com.
So Kibler winning the all-important game 1 there, largely on the back off this guy, Thundermaw Hellkite.
Oh man, Thundermaw Hellkite. It does so much work. We just had to give it its own little graphic here. I kind of wish that, the background was more thundery.
More thundery, more lightning-y.
More thundery. So it's a Mythic Rare, so it's doing what Mythic Rares does, which is win games. Very aggressive, featured in so many decks. Sleeper card for a while?
It was. The card came out, and Pat Chapin had to write an article about how ridiculous it was, and it's even then took a really long time to catch on.
Yeah, sometimes a 5/5 fly for 5 with haste and an upside just doesn't, it just doesn't float some boats, I guess. I don't know. I
don't know, man. The card's real good.
Yeah, it looks great. It's a Ball Lightning-esque card that stays in play and always gets his man.
Yeah, we designed the set on Magic 2013. Basically, the card came about because there are all these dragons that breathe fire. We wanted a dragon that represented a thunderstorm. So the idea is the ability, there's a crack of lightning, which is the 1 damage to everything in the sky, and then the thunderclap that comes later and is what taps all the creatures. So, kind of disorients them or whatever. Very clever. Also designed to hate on Lingering Souls a little bit and just be a gargantuan flyer.
Just a little bit. This guy can actually win games too, especially in most aggressive decks where you're getting your opponent down to a low life total using all the cards in your hand, and you just need one more thing to get that damage through. And this almost always gets his 5 damage when you play it.
5 into 10 turns out to be a very large number.
That makes 15.
15 it is. And people are damaging themselves a lot, courtesy of the Return to Ravnica's cycle of dual lands.
Yeah, you just start at 18 life.
Yeah, exactly. So
there's only 3 left.
There you go. It's a Searing Spear away.
I just number scienced.
You did number science. Thundermaw Hellkite is my actual favorite Magic card, by the way. So
all right,
I'm all about this.
So we have an update in one of the back matches. Shahar Shinhar up a game against Yuya Watanabe. There was another update that was given, but sometimes I just don't pay attention to Marshall Sutcliffe.
Earning that paycheck.
Budakov is up a game against Li Shitian.
All right. Dmitry Budakov.
Before I ordered your Olivia. I was just sort of getting ahead of myself.
Brian making the exact same observation we made a few turns ago, but it worked out for him in the end. So
both players shuffling up after presumably sideboarding. So, Brian Kibler, what does he do against Reid Duke's deck?
I think you have to be excited about a couple cards. First, Gruul War Chant is at its absolute best here. The Jund deck tries to stabilize using 1 or 2 key creatures. War Chant just simply prevents that. And again, we've talked ad nauseum about the Jund deck's inability to remove enchantments. So War Chant just sticks on the board and is extremely powerful. I think you might want Zealous Conscripts, and I think Burning Earth is incredible against a deck with 2 basic lands.
Yeah.
So I think you probably want most of that.
Block by 2 creatures, yes.
They're going over the game text of Gruul War Chant right now. The challenge for Kibler is, you can't bring in all of this stuff. I find Hellrider a little bit weaker than it ordinarily would be because the Jund deck has a lot of 3/3s, and you're not likely to keep that many creatures on the board. So I think swapping that out for Burning Earth could be pretty profitable. On the other end, you have to be pretty conscious of your mana curve, and you want to make sure that you're not diluting your deck too much because one of the ways the Jund players are saying they beat Burning Earth is if your opponent plays it without any creatures on the table.
Right.
Then
No pressure.
they've just skipped a turn essentially to cast the enchantment, which gives you the time you need to deal with it.
Exactly. So now, Reid Duke, what does he do to adjust in this matchup?
I think you want your 2 Pillars of Flame to deal with the 4 Strangleroot guys that Kibler has. Can also hit a mana creature if it needs to. A card's just going to do some work. If you're too scared about, or if you're very scared about the Burning Earths and the Gruul War Chant, you might want Acidic Slime, but that's kind of slow. And I think you probably bring in Liliana of the Veil. The way the green-red deck plays out, you usually have your big, hasty, heavy hitters as the last couple of cards in your hand. So Liliana can take either the land they need to cast it or the card itself. If worse comes to worse, you just edict them and kill them that way, too.
Okay. All right. So we have another update for you guys. Willie Edo up 1 game over Tom Martell. That is Naya versus blue, white, red control. Now, I want to touch a little bit on the Kibler sideboard plan because you went through a sideboard and you found a lot of cards that are good in this matchup. So now because, there's a lot of strategies involved when you decide to sideboard. And some players, maybe some of the newer players go, oh, these are the cards that are good in this matchup, so I'm just going to try to get all these cards in. Now, is this a matchup where Brian Kibler is looking at his deck and looking at the main deck and saying, these cards are bad, and let's get the best good cards in? Or does his sideboard change the strategy of the deck, and then he's just shifting cards around?
That's a really good question. It doesn't appear to me that the sideboard changes the strategy of the deck so much. I mean, you're still kind of trying to do the same thing that you always do, just like play guys, attack with them, come over the top. The numbers are a little bit tricky. And I'm sure Kibler has his sideboard plan memorized, and of course we don't just magically have access to that. I will say that Hellrider seems a little, and Gorklan Rampager, I don't know that you need 4 copies, given that Gruul Warchan is doing that work for you. So I think you sort of swap out 4s for 4s and 5s, and it kind of works pretty straightforwardly.
All right, so the first play of the game is Scavenging Ooze for Reid Duke, and the answer is a Flinthoof board for Brian Kibler. That board is at the 3/3 thanks to that stomping ground being a mountain.
The very relevant aspect of the Ravnica duels is their basic land types, even though they are not themselves basic lands.
So Reid Duke looking at a bunch of land, one of them being a Keswick Wolf Run, which will play a part later, but also a Garrick Relentless. Not enough mana to play that yet, so he just plays a land and passes the turn.
Yeah, and kind of a loose hand for Reid, really. I mean, he mulliganed once already, and just doesn't have a lot of anything. And this, you have to expect this Domri raid about to fight the Scavenging Ooze. I mean, that sort of opens him up to an Abrupt Decay, but minus Abrupt Decay or Searing Spear, which he knows Reid doesn't play, there's not really a lot that can happen. On the other end, he could just start drawing cards.
Yeah, he
and
doesn't.
That looks like what he does.
He does not go with the fighting aspect, and he goes with the card draw, and he gets a Hellrider off the top.
All right, so my claim about Hellrider not being good in this matchup and being sided out does not appear to be valid.
Wah, wah.
Wah, wah, indeed.
And there we get a look at Domri Raid up on the board. It does have an ability, the +1 is to look at the top card of your deck and draw it if it's a creature, but that -2 gives you very good versatility and reusability when it comes to the creature elimination aspect of the game.
Right, and I mean, Domri Raid, just an incredibly, insanely powerful Magic card. One of the many reasons it is so powerful is that it both serves as removal and the threat of removal, which can oftentimes be as good as the actual kill spell, and just a card advantage engine on top of all the rest of that.
All right, so it looks like Scavenging Ooze is going to jump in the way of the Flinthoof board, gets +1/+0 thanks to Keswick Wolf Run, and there is a trade. And there is the card that we've been talking about, Burning Earth.
Yep.
Yeah, and when you can play Burning Earth on an empty board, as opposed to your opponent having threats, and crucially with Thundermaw Hellkites and Hellriders in your hand, so that you can pressure any planeswalkers your opponent may play, that is when the card is pretty bad news for the Jund player. Now, that said, if he'd played a Hellrider and attacked, it would have dealt some damage, and the Scavenging would have still traded, but he had a Flinthoof Boar, which is almost the same amount of damage the Burning Earth would have dealt that turn and recast anything. So it's arguable that he could have played a creature and been in a comparable position, but it is nice to just have that Burning Earth on the table and know that your opponent can't cast anything without taking a huge swath of damage.
Right. So the Domri Raid +1 hits a Strangleroot Geist, so that's going to threaten even more haste from Brian Kibler's hand, but Thundermaw Hellkite is the play. He's going to take only 1 damage from that Burning Earth. He's going to get to attack for 5. And to Reid Duke's empty board, he has 5 non-basic land on the battlefield. There's a Burning Earth in play, which I like to nickname as Spotter's Nightmare.
Spotter's Nightmare.
Spotter's Nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. So many triggers.
So many triggers. But Reid Duke does draw a Huntmaster of the Fells. And I am happy to mention that Dmitry Budakov wins 2-0 over Li Shiqian while we watch this awesome game of Magic go on.
Apparently in that match, Jace Memory Adept ultimated and drew 20 cards.
Only 20?
For Budakov.
Yeah.
A mere 20.
Not impressed. Just kidding. That was actually pretty sweet.
You're such a slow roller, Rashad.
I know. So Reid Duke is down to 11, mostly because he tapped a bunch of non-basic lands to try to get back into this game. Though he did get 2 of that life back from Huntmaster of the Fells. It also gives him a couple of creatures to clog down the ground, but the ground is not where Brian Kibler is attacking. As a second Thundermaw Hellkite comes down, puts Reid Duke to 1 life. He only has 1 non-basic land in place, so he only has a swamp to resolve spells with.
That swamp is going to do some work this game, hopefully. Maybe he can do something with all those abilities on the stack. Reid looking at his cards.
He has a Thragtusk, but the rules just don't work that way.
And that is.
That's it. Brian Kibler takes it 2-0 over Reid Duke. Reid Duke finally gets a loss in this tournament.
I think I just lost my mic. Against like John like yours, that I bring in Burning Earth. Against the John with Lifebane Zombie, I think it World War Chant's better because they have more just like proactive things to impact the board, and I need War Chant to get past Lifebane Zombie with a lot of my cheap creatures.
Makes sense.
But yeah, when you don't have any ways to even remove Burning Earth, and less early stuff, so I think Burning Earth is super good against you.
Yeah, it's very good against me.
Reid confirming the semi-obvious there. So I was wrong in my prediction about Gruul War Chant. He only brings that in against Lifebane Zombie builds.
Yeah. Game 1.
Okay.
Qualifiers for the next Pro Tour have begun. You could be on the big stage for Pro Tour Born of the Gods, taking place February 21st to 23rd in Valencia, Spain. Can't wait to go there. For more information, visit wizards.com/PTQ. Was I being presumptuous?
Oh, about can't wait to go there?
Yeah.
Maybe that was a bit of a humble or not so humble brag, but I will say, having been at Pro Tour Valencia 2007, it's one of the most beautiful cities on earth. I cannot wait for the Pro Tour to make another stop in Valencia.
I mean, will there be rains from the gods? from Born of the Gods?
I sure hope not. That was an almost spiritual amount of rain. That was crazy.
I wasn't at that Pro Tour. I actually was 1 game away from qualifying for that Pro Tour. And
no, it was
kind of sad.
It was totally absurd. I mean, it really was.
I mean, I read about it all over. I think it was dailymtg.com at the time. That was way beyond the sideboard days. So it was well covered, and it was well covered.
It was well covered in rain.
All right, so Willie Edo is up a game as we are going to that match. Tom Martell mulligan to 6 this game, and it looks like Willie Edo has a Voice of Resurgence in play and a Avicen's Pilgrim, while Tom Martell is just rocking 3 land. About to be 4. It looks like a Sulphur's Springs hit in play, and I'm not sure what the play is going to be. Looks like a Detention Sphere has come to the top of his hand.
So I'm interested to see, there's a grand variety of decks that Shahar and Tom's Build a Blue-White Red sides in Thundermaw Hellkite against. He sides it in, it looks like, against Naya Aggro, and he also sides it in against Blue-White Red Control. If he sides it in against Jund, is it the type of card you'd want in the main deck, or is it one of those cards that gets better because of how people take out their removal against you after sideboard?
Yeah, I'm always a fan of that sideboard strategy, the metagaming your opponent's sideboard strategy by just making their cards bad.
Right, kind of a semi-transformational sideboard. You don't have to transform your entire deck. You just kind of add cards that change their value a lot.
All right, so a Domri Raid hits the battlefield. The +1 doesn't yield a card. Avicen's Pilgrim gets in for 1, and Tom Martell is back on the action of things. There's Thundermaw Hellkite. It's going to take out Domri Raid. Another good thing that Thundermaw Hellkite does, it clears the way for itself, and it usually 5 damage is enough to kill a Planeswalker.
And it is possible. I mean, Domri Raid, one of the best cards that you can play against a control deck. So, Tom might have brought it in explicitly so that he has a way to deal with a Domri Raid that, is started to do its work.
And Oblivion Ring takes out that Thundermaw Hellkite. Avicen's Pilgrim gets in again, brings Tom Martell down to 18. It's 18 all. Tom Martell says, time to think. He's looking at Azorius Charm, Turn to Burn, Moorland Haunt, and he might have another Sulphur Falls, but that may have already been played, not sure.
I mean, Tom really not able to put a lot together. Willie, on the other hand, he's got a Domri Raid he can leverage. He's got Thundermaw Hellkite's going to need to be dealt with.
Did you see what he has 2 of in his hand?
Yeah, and I was getting that. Rurik Thar the Unbound card explicitly developed to be incredible in matchups like this. Essentially saying, Tomo, you're at 18. Will you ever do anything? I'm going to have to hit you for 1/3 of your life total. So Willie, if he can get 2 more lands and drop Rurik Thar, this game's going to be over real fast.
It's kind of the burning earth for spells.
Yeah.
in a way. So Tom Martell decides to try to draw some type of action with the Azorius Charm. Doesn't seem to get anything special. Plays the Moorland Hunt, passes the turn, and now it's back to Willie Edo. Let's see if he can get anything off the top of his deck. And it looks like there's a Scavenging Ooze to go with another Dami Raid, a Boros Reckoner, a Thundermaw Hellkite of his own, and I'm not sure what the other card. Oh, the Rurik Thars that we were just gushing over.
You were, oohing and eyeing over.
And there is Dami Raid. Gonna start at 3. Well, he's gonna ask, is that okay, sir? And it does resolve. Yields him a Loxodon Smiter, which is gonna be a 4/4, which is gonna come down because it can't be countered. So that's gonna be another card that Tom Martell is gonna have to deal with later in this game.
Now you notice Willie not attacking with Avacyn's Pilgrim. I think doesn't want it to eat an Azorius Charm because he really needs to draw some lands. Tom hasn't Sphinx's Revelation yet, doesn't really have any card advantage engine going on, so things are going pretty well for Willie, assuming he can cast the spells in his hand.
Yep, and there's a War Leader's Helix. It's going to take out the Dami Raid. It's going to leave Willie with still not a lot of action going on, but he just draws another Dami Raid. So he could play that, try to get himself another spell of some sort, and it looks like that's what's happening.
Yep.
+1.
It resolves.
Yeah.
Doesn't yield a creature, so it's probably a land.
Tom can't activate the Moorland Hawk because there's no creature in his graveyard, so
Right.
the Avacyn's Pilgrim able to freely get in there for some damage.
Another land for Tom Martell and a pass of the turn. He's still holding on to yet another land, and I believe that last card was a Turn and Burn.
Yeah, and Tom hasn't really wanted to spend it on the Avacyn's Pilgrim because it's capable of taking down anything. He's got to know that Willie has a hand full of gasoline-like OPEC, as Ruben Brisler has said.
and there is just a bit of it right there, as Thundermaw Hellkite tries to come down, but it gets turned into a 0/1 and then burned away.
And as sad as you are, if you're Willie, for your dragon dying, you've got to be pretty happy that probably paves the way for Rurik Thar in a pretty unprecedented way.
Yes, it does. But that Azorius Charm is we'll just wait for the Rurik Thar to attack as he must.
Right.
Every turn. And it also means that there's fuel for that Moorland Hunt in the graveyard. Although it's only 1 token, but that's some type of pressure for Tom Martell to start off with.
Why is there...
There's a Thundermaw Hellkite in the graveyard right now.
Moorland Hunt only exiles your graveyard.
Oh, yeah, it does only exile yours.
But and you see Tom digging with that Azorius Charm. Just really, he just needs the actual magic card Sphinx's Revelation right now. Not a whole lot else is going to do the trick.
Okay, I believe I heard that Shahar Shinhar has won 2-0 over Yuri Watanabe, which would mean that they're done playing and they get to go home.
Bright and early this morning?
Bright and early at 10 o'clock here in Amsterdam.
Just really crazy draws for Willie. Just one more land at any point here would have been huge. But you see him with a Burning Earth. He's trying to decide whether to resolve Scavenging Ooze or a Smiter or a Burning Earth, it looks like.
So it looks like he's going to cast something for 3 mana. And there is a Loxodon Smiter. He didn't give the slight pause to see if Tom Martell would like to try to counter it.
There's nothing better than your opponent trying to counterspell
a spell that can't be countered.
A Smiter. They just hold their counterspell in their hand, and you're just looking at them, and they're just looking at you.
So another land finally for Willie Edo.
I am
Sunpetal Grove.
Yeah, I am kind of wondering why Willie didn't use that window to resolve Burning Earth, just because, if Tom draws a Sphinx's Revelation at any point, things are pretty bad for Willie, so it would kind of put a damper on that plan, but he might not have wanted to deal himself a zillion damage with his own Burning Earth, given the number of non-basics he has.
So there's 6 mana, and there is Rurik Thar.
Wow.
The Unbound. I believe he's not bound. Is that correct?
Oh, no, he's not bowed.
He's not
He's
bowed.
not going to bow to anyone, which is why he doesn't tap.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What about Exalted? Does he not trigger that?
He can be exalted. He just doesn't have to bow. He doesn't have to physically...
But can he gain Exalted as well?
Can he gain exalted? That remains to be seen. We can figure it out. But what he can do is deal 6 damage to Tom whenever Tom tries to do anything. So that turn and burn, while very good, is going to come at a little bit of a cost.
Yeah, it seems like it almost can get around that, but it just doesn't. It gets around it a
Not
little too
quite
late.
soon enough. Zzz.
He's going to turn and burn, and Tom Martell is going to take 6 damage for that. He's going to go down to 11, but that's one less 6/6 that's on the battlefield that can attack you. Little does he know.
Right. There is more where that came from, son.
Still had all D's,
Wow.
Rurik Thars. We have
Emblem.
an emblem, a Domi Raid emblem. Let's get Domi Raid up on the screen so we can read all of the
beautiful abilities that he grants to his fellows.
And one fellow being Rurik Thar.
Wow, the clan runner. That's number 2. We see Domi Raid, the Gruul Planeswalker, and Rurik Thar, the Unbound, putting this game away in decisive fashion for Willie.
Yep, Willie Edel wins 2-0 over Tom Martell.
That emblem, of course, giving double strike, trample, hexproof, and haste.
That's a lot of stuff. And apparently it makes Rurik Thar tap to attack. All right, so we're going to have a little chat with Willie Edel. Maybe we can get some Rurik Thar thoughts from him. All right, here we are back in the booth just briefly. Rashad Miller, Zach Hill. We just saw Rurik Thar do some awesome work, and we're going to talk to Willie Edel just a little bit to see what other work this Rurik Thar has done.
Well, yeah, I mean, Willie's been making awesome Naya decks for like a month and a half now or something like that, probably even longer than that. I mean, and you see that in the way he tunes his list. He's got like 1 Huntmaster of the Fells in the main deck, so I'm really eager to hear him talk about how he arrived at this list.
All right, then let's hear him talk. Marshall Sutcliffe and Willie Edel.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, that one? Why are you looking there?
Both. All right, welcome down to the feature match area. Marshall Sutcliffe with Willie Edel. Willie, you made some big spells that turn. Can you talk to us a little bit about what happened in the late stages of that game?
I started slowly. I strumbled on lanes on the beginning. I missed a couple land drops, but since I started playing Doran after Doran, he had to deal with my Dorans. Then I knew he didn't have any counters, so I just saved the big spells like Rurik Thar and everything through the late, and I don't know. It's a good matchup for me. Fortunately, I play one of my good matchups today. I play 2 so-so matchups first. And considering the amount of blue, white, red you have here today, that's kind of unlucky. I want to play one today, so it's good to win.
So Rurik Thar, that's a card that we haven't seen much of in Standard. Did you bring it in specifically, or do you put it in your sideboard specifically for this matchup?
Yeah, specifically for blue, white, red. I don't think why he doesn't see more play. In my opinion, he should be played, for example, in Jund. Some people play. I think it's by far the best hate you can have against this kind of deck, especially if you play Donry, because you want your big threats to be creatures. So Rurik Thar does all. So I think it's pretty good. It's the best creature you can have against blue, white, red.
Okay. Yeah, he certainly was impressive here. All right, let's send it back to the booth. Thanks, Willie, for your time, and good luck tomorrow. Let's send it back to Rashad and Zach.
Now, the thing I really wanted to know about Rurik Thar is, did he make it through the maze? Did he win the race? Did Rurik Thar smash? Did Rurik smash and Thar smash? Because I hear they're 2 different people, but they are the same body.
And Thar.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Did he?
Look, man, I don't know these things.
No spoilers? All right.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe the guys at the news desk
One
know
of these
what's
days,
going on.
I'll tell you, when you're older, Rashad.
All right, let's send it back to the news desk.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the news desk here. We're just trying to work out everything that's going on. There's still one match outstanding, and that is Martin User against Josh Utter-Layton. But I've been joined by Luis Scott Vargas. Now, Luis, tons of stuff going on everywhere. You look, great matches. And I know that through the second half of the day, you had a chance to wander around, not so much with a view to working out precisely what's going on with Standard, but just what's going on with the tournament, how are people feeling, and what have you seen? So give us your thoughts on the second part of the day, because we saw you a lot in the booth.
Yeah, I was on the floor for the second part of the day, kind of checking out the Standard matches, and saw some pretty interesting stuff. There's a lot of blue-white-red floating around, as we knew. So good amount of Jund, a little less than that, but more than that, I got to see stuff like Budakov draw 20 cards off his Jace Memory Adept.
20 cards, that's...
He did not allow Shi Tianli to also draw 20, though he could have had he desired.
Okay, nice. Yeah, that was a pretty fun one. What else have you seen, like, around the tables, like particular interactions, or?
Well, there have been a lot of Legions assembled. The blue-red decks are playing many copies of Assemble the Legions, so you end up overrunning your opponent with soldier tokens quite often. And then another interesting interaction is Aetherling. In the blue-red mirror specifically, where you both have Aetherlings, neither of you can block, and then it comes down to who has more Azorius Charms and turn burns to fog Aetherling for a turn as you force your opponent to exile it and then bring it back.
Okay. You were obviously part of any number of groupings, because you're even better connected than we are, basically. You know everyone in this field. Maybe you don't know Budakov. Did you have a hotline to Siberia?
No, I didn't really know what he was going to show up with. I mean, I knew who he was based on Magic Online, but past that, I really didn't know what his preparation would look like.
But apart from that, you had a very good sense of the field. Are you surprised by what we've seen? Does it feel like a very conservative set of choices? How do you see it?
Yeah, I think that's also going to carry over into Modern, by the way. I think we're not going to see as much combo. And in Standard, you ended up seeing like a lot of Jund and blue-white-red, because both those decks are obviously very strong. I was surprised that Craig Wesco played White Weenie, but, well, maybe not so much.
No, and we were talking about that at the start of the day, whether that was something that, because in theory, everyone would know that's what he was playing, whether there was a way to punish him for that, or for him to actually, it just didn't matter that people knew. What were they going to do different?
I mean, yeah, like all the guys that, whose testing I observed knew that he was going to come with that sort of deck, and none of them really altered their deck because of it. He's one player out of 16. You should be playing a deck that's okay against small creatures anyway, just because you want to cover all your bases. So there was no punishment there, and that's fine for Wesco. I mean, he made a good deck choice. It's the same with Willie, actually. He could have... Almost everyone predicted that he was going to play Naya, and then he ended up playing Naya, and he ended up doing well with it.
Yeah, absolutely, he did. And I was concerned about Willie, because he had a couple of very difficult losses. He went from 2-0 down to 2-3, and at that point I was thinking, this isn't great for him. And he had a real sort of, you sometimes see body language when people are sort of collapsing in on themselves, and he went away after that round 5 defeat and just took a little bit of time just in private to sort himself out, and I was really impressed that he came back in that last round. Looking at the sort of top of the standings, we have a 3-way tie at the head of things. If I had given you Reid Duke, Shahar Shenhar and Brian Kibler at the start as your 3 overnight co-leaders, where would that sort of rank in the all-time shocks, as it were? Or,
that's
how do you
actually
see
not really a shock at all.
Quite.
Like I expected all 3 of these guys to come with very good decks and tuned deck lists, and they all did, and all of them play very well. So I think that this is one of the many groupings that I would not be surprised by.
Something that you said in our Hall of Fame chat earlier on was about it becomes easier once you have the first Pro Tour top 8, and we were thinking, really, how does that work? But it was very interesting to hear that. Shahar and Reid, not yet.
Neither of them are sporting one of the top 8s we're sure are going to be there.
And Brian, of course, twice a champion. Never mind the top 8. Yeah. Do you think that is going to matter in any way down the stretch? Or, because so often we see at Pro Tours, any number of 8-0s overnight who, they finish 15th, 23rd, even 35th. But these 3 5-1s, are we looking at 3 of the top 4? Do you think, with those 5-1s?
I think that is a very good possibility. I mean, obviously, like how the individual deck metagame shapes up tomorrow in Modern is going to play a big part, and also in the actual conclusion of the top 4. But I think these guys all have a really good shot, especially since even though Reid and Shahar, neither of them do have a Pro Tour top 8, this is very different than a Pro Tour. This is, the 16 best. This isn't actually a Pro Tour. And they've played against all these guys. They've drafted with them, they've hung out with them, they've play tested with them. So I think they actually get that familiarity, and that actually is going to help them quite a bit, especially since the atmosphere here, just like last year, is much more casual than you would expect.
Sure. we come out tomorrow with M14 draft, which, never mind the format, let's just talk about the seats. There are 2 tables, and they will be separated until halfway through the day tomorrow. Now, at the top table, in some ways, that has less ramifications than for the bottom table, because at the bottom table, there are going to be people, particularly at 2 and 4 overnight, who are going, I absolutely must 3-0 this.
Right.
There is no other result that can possibly help me, because if they come out at the other end at 4 and 5,
They're
that's-
unlikely, especially based on the cumulative tiebreaker system.
that's basically going nowhere. So are we likely to see a lot of really sort of red-hot action on the bottom table tomorrow morning?
People do. I mean, it is a fight for your tournament life, so that is definitely a big deal.
Yeah. And are there people who will think, yeah, I was planning on blue-white flyers in a perfect world, but now I'm looking, just give me every enchantment known to man, and I'll just pray I get the Blightcasters to make blessing good.
I think for the most part, people here are not looking to force any particular archetype.
Sure.
What you're really hoping to do is, open something insane and just going into that. But, barring that, I think they're going to try to figure out whatever's open. Just general good draft strategy, as Ben Stark would always, recommend.
Okay, well, we're going to stop chatting because we have a gentleman who's been doing rather well at this tournament who's going to come in round the side and join us and sit next to Luis. And this is one of our 5-1 players. We've talked on camera to Shahar Shenha. We've talked and done a deck tech with Reid Duke. Yesterday we did a deck tech with this man. We haven't had a chance to talk with him yet. So, Luis, I know you've got some things to say to the Dragon Master, Mr. Brian Kibler. Take it away, Luis.
How you doing?
So you start off with a Modern Masters draft, and I saw your deck, but it ended up very, very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like my deck a lot. I think I may have played a little suboptimally against Ben in the first game of our match.
I think the way you played, you had reasons behind it.
Yeah, I definitely had a plan, but ultimately I think it probably wasn't the best plan. But his deck was pretty unreal.
Yeah, you didn't plan on him drawing Cryptic Command and Blinding Beam.
No, that was not my plan. No.
So we play tested your deck actually quite a bit, and I saw the evolution of it. What were the last minute changes you made?
The biggest changes that I made were actually. I really wanted to skew the deck more aggressive. When we were testing Jund with Lifebane Zombie, because Lifebane Zombie was a really prominent card in Calgary, we expected Lifebane Zombie to be popular here, and the way that my deck was had shaped up before was a little too mid-range against Lifebane Zombie. I really wanted to be more aggressive. I ended up taking out like Wolfear Avengers and really sort of shifting the curve around and having Strangurtgeist and Hellrider instead.
And that ended up going pretty well for you in Standard.
Yeah, I mean, I went 3-0 in Standard, and I loved my deck. I think it was, I think it was great for the field.
What were the 3 Standard matchups you played against?
I played the one matchup I didn't want to play, which was Willie in the first round, playing Naya.
The Naya deck.
And then I played against 2 different Jund decks. I played against David Ochoa and Reid Duke.
And I saw you Burning Earth read out pretty well.
That game, at the end of that game, he was at 1 life. I had Burning Earth in play. I had 2 dragons and Dome Reabout's ultimate. So
he was in it.
So it was close.
It was close.
It was close.
Yeah, I mean, besides the Burning Earth, you actually ended up playing like all haste creatures too.
I had 16 haste creatures. The only creatures in my deck that didn't have haste were the elves and scavenging ooze.
Which kind of incidentally makes you very good against Blue-White Red, which is half the field this time.
I mean, Blue-White Red and Jund were the 2 decks that I was targeting. The nature of this tournament, because there's 4 different formats, makes it very difficult for players to prepare as much as they might want for a lot of them. Didn't really expect a ton of crazy decks coming out in Standard, and Blue-White Red and Jund are exactly the sort of decks that many of the top players like to play.
Right.
That was my goal coming in. I want to beat Blue-White Red. I want to beat Jund, and a bunch of haste creatures and Burning Earth is pretty good.
Are you looking forward to M14 draft?
M14 draft is one of the formats that I feel that I'm less prepared for, but got a reasonable amount of practice in recently, and hopefully it'll go well.
Yeah, and then after that there's Modern, where you actually have one of the only unique decks in the field, just like in Standard.
Just like in Standard. My Modern deck is a green-white Aether Vial deck. I was expecting the field to be pretty heavily Jund, Pod, Scapeshift. I actually don't know what the Modern decks look like yet. We haven't done this list.
Yeah.
So
eventually you'll take a look at them.
But having Leonin Arbiter and Mind Sensors clearly very powerful against the Pod decks or Scapeshift decks, and then just the core of the deck is just efficient creatures and just disruption with Ghost Quarter and Tectonic Edge that can really keep people off their plans.
Yeah, and starting 5-1, you actually are in pretty good shape with the cumulative tiebreaker system, kind of looking at maybe a 8-4 guaranteed just about to make top 4.
That would be great.
And then
I don't know. This is the first event the cumulative tiebreaker has really been used. So My understanding is that, basically winning early is better, and I've won a lot early, so there you go.
I guess we don't have a shout-out this year to go 12-1
Yeah.
or 12-0.
I mean, I guess, was he 12-0 before he lost? I don't even remember.
He either won 11-1 or 12-0
He had a
last
lot of
year,
wins.
and he pretty much ran the table. So.
Well, I still got that 11-1 in my sights. We'll see.
All right, listen, thank you so much for coming in, Brian, and many congratulations. 5-1, a great start to the weekend. At least one, maybe 2 more days of hard work for him. Only the 4 more days for Luis and me. If you want to know the full story of day one, well, that is coming right up in our day one wrap.